What are the three most important things you need to know when you are beginning to grow cut flowers? Stay tuned because I'm going to share them with you and they are going to put you ahead of the game. And one of them you definitely don't need to learn after you've been growing. Welcome to Learn Cut Flower Growing. Whether you are an inspiring green thumb, a busy mompreneur, or simply seeking a passion, you are in the right place. If I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would do it smarter. And that's what I'm sharing here. I want to take years off your learning and help you bloom with confidence in your garden. Each episode, I'll share practical tips and ideas, heartfelt stories, and expert insights to help you grow and find balance in your journey. I'm Paula Rice, your cut flower farmer guide. I've been growing for 16 years, and I'm an expert in my field, literally. So grab your gardening gloves and listen to me while you work, or grab a cup of coffee and relax as you learn to manage a cut flower garden and business. I think the hardest part about wanting to learn something new, and you're super excited, you have all of the passion, it's just a discovery zone, is that for me at least, I have to go to sub-suck for a while. So a lot of times, because I loved bread and grinding wheat and making fluffy loaves from that, but that took forever to master. And same with cut flower growing. It took many, many years to look back and say, wow, I wish I would have known that so much sooner. That's really my purpose here. That's really what this is all about, is I want to help you get there faster because there's so many little details that you will get, but it's really nice to know them ahead. And so we are going to move in today with my top 3 things that I think you should know coming out of the gate. And the first one is, and this is really just kind of the secret, or one of them, is to grow flowers that are good cut flowers. They are cut flower varieties. Okay. It isn't always that you are an amazing grower. It might just be that you knew the right variety to pick, and that makes a big difference. Let's talk about what makes a good cut flower, because there are definitely qualities that a flower has to have to be considered a good cut flower. And the first one is, of course, does it have a decent vase life? That's important. When you look at your flower garden, you instantly, at least for me, I see, okay, these are the ones that are just gorgeous for the landscape, and I love them. And these are the ones that I can actually pick, bring in the home and enjoy, or gift as a beautiful arrangement or in a beautiful arrangement. The second thing is, does it have a long stem? Because when you're designing flowers, you need to have a certain stem length to get it up and high in the vase. Now, there are some caveats to that. If you are selling flowers to the grocery store, absolutely your entire lineup needs to have a long, strong stem. But if you have a farm stand, you could actually sell a lot of your shorter stems that are flowers that happen to have a good vase life also. And that really works. It just doesn't work in the wholesale world. It doesn't work in, the grocery store world, but it would work for your own, if you were a farmer florist and you're designing stuff in a cube, absolutely. Short stems is totally fine as long as it has a good vase life. And the next thing you would think about is a sturdy stem. You don't want anything floppy. You can have things that are floppy that do have a vase life, and maybe you can wire those and manipulate them. But overall, when I come across a sunflower, and sunflowers have great vase lives, some of them have better vase lives than other sunflowers. So I will absolutely, as I learn, default to choosing the seed of the sunflowers that have the better vase life. Because if you get one that has a great vase life, but it has a floppy stem, you'll just kind of whittle that one away and get rid of it. So a strong, stiff stem is another good quality of a cut flower. So we have good vase life, a tall stem, a strong, sturdy stem. That's kind of it. Those are the main things. And then just the uniqueness of that flower. So the industry back in the day was really pure about those characteristics. They were pretty foundational to what makes a good cut flower. And as more people have entered the realm of discovering cut flowers and experimenting, which is all good and wonderful, we've kind of lost some of those basics. And so, and I think that the first time I came across that is I was, watching some people and they came across the new little zinnias that are just adorable. And they were raving about it as a cut flower. So I ordered it, didn't even think twice, grew it, short stems, like crazy short stems. And I was like, who recommended this as a cut flower? Now it is a fine cut flower. I can still use it. And I did have a couple of plants that kind of got some height to them. So I saved the seeds on those and we'll see if I can't improve them. And the second one, where the market gets a little lost in the cut flower world, and this is just rampant in the dahlia area. So you have to think, okay, am I a cut flower grower? And my flowers need certain qualities? Or am I a dahlia tube producer? Or am I just growing beautiful flowers for my landscape? Okay, there's a difference. I see a lot of cut flower growers or people growing dahlias as cut flower growers, and they are just, talking out loud about all the beautiful combinations. And you guys, they are gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. Dahlias are amazing. They're that perfect bridging, colorful, marrying bride type flower to put in a design to kind of pull it all together. They really are magical, and you can't find a type of flower that has more beautiful color combinations. But here we go. Not all of them make good cut flowers. In fact, the vast majority of them are terrible, absolutely terrible. And so you want to make sure you get a cut flower dahlia garden, if you are a cut flower grower, that has good vase lives. And the good cut flower dahlia, in my opinion, can get to 5 days. I might settle in on 4, but 5 days would be amazing. And that's pretty important because people value dahlias a lot, and growers think that their dahlias are worth just a fortune. They're like, this is a premium flower. Well, it's not really, if it's only going to last a day or two. That really is going to mess with the mojo of your customer. When they come to your farm stand and they spent $30 on a bundle of dahlias because you think they're amazing and they're dead in their house in 2 days, they're going to make better choices. And number one, they don't even understand. They're going to be like, well, that's kind of a crap flower. That's a crap grower or whatever. So pick the dahlias that have a good vase life. And then, of course, you'll do education to your customers through your social media posts about how long a dahlia will last and what you can do to make it last longer. But that's super important. Where I am going with this is when Cafe au Lait came on the scene, the dahlia. Cafe au Lait is a crap cut flower dahlia through and through. Oh my goodness. It's horrible. And the bigger your dahlia gets, the worse the vase life it has. But do I sell Cafe au Lait dahlia as a cut flower? Yes. Yes, unfortunately, I do, because it sells. But it's only for weddings and events. And it has been so interesting to me to see the market pivot when it deals with this cut dahlia, because I used to sell the Cafe au Lait dahlia to the wholesaler. They would call me up. Polly, do you have this? Yes, I do. I get it to them and they get it to the florist. But because that thing does not have a good vase life, it is already dying. They all are when you harvest them, but this guy's really dying. And so you have to keep him in the cooler. It has to get to the florist soon. They need to get it in the cooler. And it's just an event flower. That is it. It is only the event flower. And here is what has happened. In the beginning, I sold that, got it to them. It was in great shape. But in time, everybody began to understand how terrible of a cut flower it was. And so now, if you are a florist and you order Cafe au Lait dahlia from the wholesaler, at least that's what my wholesaler started doing. They're like, we absolutely will not guarantee this. Okay, we'll get it to you alive, but we are not guaranteeing it at all, and we will not refund your money. And so that, to me, is really smart on the wholesaler's end. And even on mine, I kind of got on that. I'm like, hey, this is a beautiful flower. You need to receive it very close to the event time, and it is not going to last. It is only a day of flower. And holy smokes, when you have those dahlias that are not good cut flowers and it is 90 degrees outside, they're just going to go down so dang fast. And I do not recommend them in foam. I mean, it's just like day of. It's okay. Just think day of. But that's the interesting thing about the whole industry and why we as growers have to remind everybody what makes a good cut flower. Because, if Martha Stewart's going to put Cafe au Lait or Dahlia on the front of her wedding magazine and everybody's going to love it, fine. I'll sell it. I'll grow it. But you kind of have to power up your understanding as a cut flower grower so that you know when you're going to take responsibility for something and when you're not, and the level of education that you need to give so that you can support your customers and also help them make better decisions, or look at your own field and say, okay, this guy's such an awesome seller. What can I grow that's a good substitute of that? Because this industry has just convulsed ever since I started growing 16 years ago, where people wanted a specific thing at a certain time in a certain way. And now it's like, yeah, no, we're going to go with a color palette. We're going to really have a broad idea of interpretation for particular varieties. Yes, I can look at your style. We can pull off a style, but I can't, I just don't want to live in this space where I'm micromanaged on exactly a particular flower. Now, if you are like crazy about a gorgeous rose or crazy about a lisianthus, maybe I'll venture in there. But overall, my scheme of providing beautiful flowers has been, you have to be willing to go with a color palette and a style and think broadly and not be hell-bent on a particular variety. Okay, I think I've went on a rant right there because we were talking about what makes a great cut flower. And I just feel like the dahlia is such a perfect example of a category of you've got some good ones, but you've got some crap ones. And I see a lot of people growing everything and just losing their minds about which ones are actually cut flowers. And I don't think people should believe or try to sell a cut flower for a ton of money if it isn't going to give them a good vase life. Saying that, I think I'm talking about my farm stand and just retail sales. Like if somebody ordered flowers for me to deliver to someone, they want that gift to last a week. So absolutely Cafe au Lait would not be in any of those arrangements. If it was, or if I was selling it in my farm stand, I would have unhappy customers. I would have people not bragging on it about me. And that's not good. But in the event world, Cafe au Lait is such a little turd, a bird turd. It's crazy. This is crazy marketing. You actually get to charge maybe more for that thing because it will die so fast and it takes so much trouble to get it to you in perfect condition that you actually need to kind of make that guy expensive to make it worth it, which is great because if you want to sell it, fine. But if you don't want to sell it and you've made it kind of expensive and all that jazz, then, you're kind of helping yourself create that market or not create that market, if you know what I'm getting at there. So that's just another avenue of that. Like to me, I'm happy to sell Cafe au Lait for $1.50 a stem, $2 a stem. But you probably could say, well, this is such an amazing flower and it's so fragile that, it's going to be this per stem. So that kind of rounds out and helps you get a vision of what makes a good cut flower and looking at your garden and just really categorizing good cut flower. It's an awesome stem. It has all the awesome qualities, or it's a good cut flower because it has a great vase life, but I can deal with the stem length and the floppiness because I can manipulate it with mechanics if I need to. Or this is only for the landscape. This is only for the beauty. Not everything's going to be a cut flower. Be sure to test them and find out. I have loved the industry really broadening the varieties that we can consider as cut flowers, because in the cut flower world, because we're local growers, we can offer such an amazing variety that you can't get from a wholesaler or a florist. And the reason for that is simply that they don't ship up well, or they'll start molding really fast. And that is the only reason why they are not all over in the market. It's because they don't ship and the system is big. But when you are a local grower, you can grow lots of little sweet little things that are just beautiful cut flowers, and they deserve to be on the list of high quality flowers for designing with. But they will not ship. So that's what's so fun about growing flowers by far is the variety. And as you move into one season, the varieties change, something new comes into bloom, and you have something new to share with your customers. In fact, a lot of my marketing is just, walk with me through the season. Let's celebrate what the season is providing, and let's celebrate what naturally grows in the area that you live in. There is always something. Number 2 on my list of the most important things you need to know when you're starting out is cleanliness and sanitation. I cannot tell you how many times brides would come pick up flowers and they would bring their buckets. Literally, they were filthy. And I'm positive they were even used in the barn. And I'm like, okay, we got to get these scrubbed up. And I instantly break into my education on how to make cut flowers last. And it starts with a very clean vase, one that you would be willing to drink from. Because what's going to kill your flower, number 1, is bacteria. It will get up into the stem and clog it, and that flower will start to die. So the absolute secret to growing, not to growing cut flowers, but the absolute secret to making cut flowers last is having super clean buckets when you go out to harvest your flowers. Okay. You're also going to want to harvest the vast majority of them early in the morning when they're very turgid and there's lots of moisture in them from the night. That's my number 1 favorite. But if you don't have enough time, you can come in the evening and do it, because when you harvest in the evening, the advantage of that is that flower has had time to build nutrition all day long. It's out there photosynthesizing, carbohydrating. So when you come to that flower in the evening, it is chock full of nutrition to pull it through. So that's also a good time. But you have to have an absolute clean harvesting bucket. And when you go to redesign those flowers into your vase, that vase has to be super clean. Okay. Super clean water. Cut flowers also, I will do a whole podcast on that, but you just remember that you are not going out into your garden in a beautiful white dress with a basket and harvesting your flowers into the basket. You are going out there with a super clean bucket with fresh water in it, and you are going to harvest those stems straight into water, because you do not want that end to dry out. When that callus is over, it can't take up water. So you cut the stem, you plunge it into your fresh water, and you are ready to go. If you know that right there, that is absolutely the secret. And we're going to get into secret number 3. And the final tip I'm going to quickly share with you today, I don't want to make this too long, is irrigation. It's one thing I was growing for a long time and just muddling through, and it's like, what is the problem here? Why is this not working? And first and foremost, and I did go to a company and I was like, okay, I need a plan and all this jazz. Well, they just didn't beef up my irrigation system as big as I would want it. I think that they were thinking I was a really small home gardener. And so my advice in this, and even if you're a small gardener, I could not imagine that I would want it any other way. I want to bring as much water to that field as I can at a time. I want to water as much as I can. Okay, the last thing I want to do is manage 10 zones or a million zones. So if you come out to that field with 1/2 inch main line, oh my goodness, you have reduced your water capacity so much. I go out with 1 inch. I'd go bigger. I actually have invested even bigger because it was a huge field. And I'm like, I want as much water out here as possible. I want to water as many things at one time as I possibly can. So your number 1 thing that you need to do before you plan out your garden outside and where you're going to have it and all that jazz is you need to go to your spigot, your water source, and discover how many gallons per hour it produces. Because when you bring this over into an irrigation system, a drip irrigation system, you need to know how much water you have available to you, because you can only build out so much before you have to add on another zone and valves to shut a certain zone off and turn a certain zone on. And it's so easy. You're going to have this done in 2 minutes, okay? You're going to walk out there with 5-gallon buckets. You're going to turn on the spigot for 1 minute, and you are going to measure how much water, how many gallons come out of your spigot in 1 minute. Then you're going to multiply that by 60 minutes in an hour. And you have here both calculations that you absolutely have to have for the rest of your growing life. How many gallons per hour you have and how many gallons per minute you have. And from here, you are set free. You can go find calculators and plug in all the numbers and discover how many zones you need, how much drip you need for each zone, and all of that. Now, here's one other thing I did not understand. I have begun using low flow drip line because for me, what I discovered about me is I wanted to water as much as I could at one time. Someone else might default, well, no, I want to pour that water on as fast as I can and get in and get out. But I was a little bit bigger operation, so I was getting too many zones. Finally, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get through all these zones. So I went with the low flow so I could do a bigger area at one time. Now, when you have the high flow, you can only have beds that are so long. And I, at one point, started to do 200 feet or more rows. And so I could no longer use efficiently the high flow drip tape. I had to switch over to the low flow drip tape. And that's when I discovered how much I loved that. Because when I go to calculate all of that out, I can actually do way more beds if it's low flow. And I would have way more zones in an area, which meant a lot less building of the irrigation system. So that meant a lot to me, that the low flow versus the high flow. I thought that was just magical. I wish I had known that sooner. And also I had a problem where I had one particular field that was up a hill a little bit, and drip doesn't like to do that. And so I wish I would have known that. So I flipped my field so that it would not be going uphill, and I went crosswise. I changed that a little bit too. So that, I just want you to do that. Just go measure your water. Because once you know, it's something that you're like really, you kind of put off and you're like, well, I'm at the computer. I'm just going to sit here and plan out this system. But really it starts there. And I would boldly say, if somebody came up and said, hey, Paula, what's the first thing I need to do when I'm thinking about building a flower farm or a flower garden? I would say, yeah, go to your water source and see how much you got. That wraps up what I really wanted to share with you today. I hope in 5 years I feel the same way. What are the top 3 that I would share with you? And I'm positive those are it. I hope that they help you in your journey in growing your flowers. Get out there, find out how much water you have so that you can plan your first little garden. And today I tackled the 3 main growing mistakes or things you need to know. And tomorrow I'm going to go to the business side of growing because, to be honest, I actually love the business side of growing. And we're going to talk about 3 mistakes there and how you can kind of get on the right track as you start to think about selling your cut flowers. That being said, you guys, God bless you all. May God bless your land and make it bear lots of beautiful flowers. And if you love this, again, I'm always asking for you to like this. Give me some comments. Let me know what you would like me to help you with. And rate, review, share all the things. I super appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.